Hello and welcome to Author to Author. I am your host Jasveer, and today I have Mustafa Amar with me. He is truly a global citizen, and his first literary project, The Passion Project, is coming up shortly. He's a fascinating personality. Let's quickly talk to him. Mustafa, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Jasveer. Hi, good morning and good afternoon for everybody who are listening to us.
Great. Mustafa, thank you so much for taking time out to come on the podcast. Please tell our listeners something about your life and something about the Passion Project.
Thank you, Jasveer. Thank you so much. I lived several career lives in the past. So I started my life as a pharmacist. I spent 3 to 4 years as a pharmacist while I was already embarking on my new career transition, or let's say my first career transition, which is to be a diplomat. That was my second career. I spent almost, as an Egyptian national, I spent almost 10 to 11 years as a diplomat. I was trained in Canada, in Ottawa. I was trained in New York and Washington. Then I worked in Africa. I went on a short assignment to New York as well, and then to China. In China, I spent almost 5 years, and I was ready to embark on my, another new adventure or new posting. But then I embarked on a new career transition. I moved to investment banking. And then in investment banking, I worked for 4 years in a development bank, which is headquartered in China, Beijing. And it's quite similar to the World Bank. It's called the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. And then here it comes my story with writing, I was never an author, but being that guy who was, able to follow and pursue his passion, by the end of my banking career, which for me, I was expecting I would continue more, but doing my MBA at that time in Manchester University really opened my mind and my eyes to doing different other things in life, including writing itself. So if we focus here on writing, I was really enjoying writing my MBA assignments almost on a weekly basis. I got very positive feedbacks from my professors that you really write very well, and the argument that you're always using is very interesting. So we encourage you to write more. And here it comes, it starts my story with writing. After almost 50% of my MBA, I opened, my journal, and I started writing those themes or subject that I really wish if I could write a book about. And they all, were based and built on my passions in life, or let's say my values, the concept that I live by. So including, for example, from consistency to the power of persistence to several other things. And what happened, because I was still in my banking job, I was working almost 12 hours every day. At the same time, I was still doing my MBA on a part-time basis. So that was almost impossible to start writing a book at that time. So I closed that journal and I say, let's see 1 year from now what I would do. And once I finished the MBA, I came back to the same old journal and I looked at it and I found that, wow, actually, I would love to write about all these books. And from that point, I started my journey with writing. Of course, we can dive deeper with further questions.
Wow, fascinating journey. You've done a lot of things. You've been a diplomat. You've been a marketing guy. You're an MBA, right? You've been a pharmacist, and amongst all these things, writing sort of started for you. So, what does it really mean to you amongst doing so many things? What does writing really mean to you?
I would actually call and say that writing is the culmination of all your experiences in life. So whatever you're writing as an author or writer, either it's nonfiction or fiction, you have something to share, right, with the world, right? You have your experiences. If it's nonfiction, you have your values, your passion, something that maybe change your life, and you'd like to share it with others to even help them to change their lives too, or even if it's a nonfiction. So you have a story that would have an impact on your readers in the future. So I was living my life with certain principles, and I was trying to enjoy every single moment in my life by pursuing my passions. I know a lot of people, mm, unfortunately, I meet a lot of them who separate, your career from your passions, and your passion is a hobby, and at the same time, on the other side, your career is your career. It's what helps you to pay your bills, right? But I tried my best to combine both. I tried to work always wherever I would see and pursue my passion, something and somewhere I enjoy working. And that led me to this adventure. I never expected, of course, this when I started my career when I was 22 years old as a pharmacist, but I was trying to pursue my passions. And if you build this an open mindset, growth mindset at the same time, this can open a lot of new doors for you. When you embark on an adventure, you never know where it would take you. And when it came to the end of my banking career, and I could see that there is a new, I would say, period is coming. As an entrepreneur as well, because I have my own company, which I built last year, and it's a coaching business. I would try to help people who are stuck in their careers and their businesses and would love to change, rebuild their careers and their businesses on their passions. And because I have been through this over my, I would say, 4 or 5 careers, so I have seen it. I have seen all the hardships. I have dealt with all of those issues. So what I'm trying to do here is to devise this, I would say, the secret recipe to, rebuild your career and business on your passions. And actually, this is what, brought me to writing, because by writing, you get to get out all your values, all your passions. You would share your views to the world as well.
Truly inspirational that you're actually doing, and I agree something that you said, that if your passion can become your profession, you're going to enjoy it a lot more.
Exactly.
And I think that's the dream of every author, to make writing their full-time profession. But sadly, when it comes to indie authors, they've got to earn money, right? And
Exactly.
that's the idea. You've got to earn money to live, right? You need food,
Yes.
you need
Yes,
housing,
exactly.
you need everything. So if writing is not paying, then you have to do something on the sidelines so that you can continue writing, and maybe hope that someday writing becomes your full-time profession.
Exactly. It's for a lot of people, they love writing, as authors, and as you rightly mentioned that, in order to live your life and pay your bills, you really have to have something on the side. But actually, there is a process to do all of this, and it always depends on the person. If you have a few passions, if you have 2 or 3 passions, you can always pursue them parallelly. So you could write, you could have your own company, you could maybe, as what I'm doing right now, I would coach people on the principles of the book as well, and the principles that I lived in my life. And it's not easy to, have as an author, have this career as, the career that pays your bill. You really need to build an authority in the market. You really need to build expertise. You need to go beyond 1 or 2 or 3 books. And of course, that's not easy. We can definitely dive deeper into the process, of course.
Yeah, I think that's something meaningful that you've again said, that you need to continue the process. You can't just publish one book, keep calling yourself an author, and expect people to read your books. You've got to come up with more unique works, niche work, so
Yes.
that people keep noticing you, and sooner or later people will notice you as an author. Just keep up with the good work. Yeah, I think that's what
Exactly.
matters. Yeah, right. So,
100% agree.
you've been writing for a long time. You've written during your MBA as well, and now you're writing professionally. Your book is going to come up pretty soon. So, looking at
Yeah.
your writing process, what's your writing process like? Please describe it for young and aspiring authors who would be listening to our conversation, and please also describe which is the most difficult part of your writing process, and how do you sort of
Sure.
overcome that?
Sure. I mean, if you allow me just earlier to touch upon, for specifically for new authors, when you are starting to learn a new craft, it's not easy, right? I mean, for somebody, for example, who
True. Yeah.
started writing earlier in his or her life, maybe would have more experience. But for somebody in my position, I haven't had that skill. So I am just starting learning that skill, when I started last year, like focusing on the book, on the concept of the book, I think one of the best ways to learn any craft or any skill is to try, as you could, of course, try your best to learn from the best in their career or in this industry. So what I did is you would you would find it somehow weird, but when I finished my MBA and I looked at my journal again, and I found all those themes and subjects for maybe a probable book in the future, I just said, if I write a book, I really would love to be a bestseller. I don't want to write a mediocre book or a book that doesn't have any value. So what did I do is I looked on YouTube and just tried to search for how to write a best-selling book. And I get to, listen and watch a lot of those videos for people who were there already. And that actually led me to deal with I would consider him one of the best book marketers in the world. His name is Steve Harrison. So Steve Harrison is the guy who helped actually a lot of those authors who actually are New York Times bestsellers and other bestsellers, like Rich Dad Poor Dad for Robert Kiyosaki, Chicken Soup for the Soul for Jack Canfield, Men from Mars, Women from Venus. So when all these books were in the beginning, Steve Harrison was the one who helped to market these books. So, by learning from the best, you can learn faster and you can, advance your skills very, very quickly. And you can focus on what really matters, because it's an ocean. If you just want to learn, you really need to know what exactly to learn, what to start with. And that actually helped me a lot, not only with writing the book, it's with the whole concept. Because I think one mistake some people do is they don't really focus on other aspects. They only focus on writing the book. But I think you cannot just write the book and hope, that somebody will come and sell it for you or market it for you. So I think you should start thinking marketing from day one. So day one, you start writing the book, you have to think marketing. That actually will help you to form a good idea how you want to write your book, in a way that appeals to the readers, and that helps you as well to, as you rightly mentioned, focus on your niche. You need to know which niche you are really focusing on. So that's what the start was. So it helped me a lot. I was able to focus on the idea, on the concept, build this, I would call it mind mapping for each chapter of the book. And then I could dive deeper into the book concepts themselves. For as you ask for authors who are starting their careers, I humbly suggest them and advise them to, number one is to not only focus on writing. Number two, try to learn from the best in the world. If you cannot afford paying for them, then learn from people who learn from them. There is always a way. There are always shortcuts. Yeah. and try to learn the whole industry. Try to immerse yourself not only in the writing process, not only in writing. Try to understand the whole industry. Try to, get answers for all those big questions that you have in the beginning. For example, would you pursue the self-publishing option, or would you maybe try your best to look at big publishers in New York and in the big cities for publishing, or would you go for a semi approach? Some approach between both. You need to understand about marketing books. You need to understand a lot of those big concepts, because it's not only about writing. You can write a much better book when you have better understanding of all those concepts.
I think true. And what you've done is you've sort of combined art, which is the art of storytelling and writing, with science, which is mind mapping. And I love your approach. Have a scientific approach. Surely you can't quantify the art, right? The art part. But you can surely quantify and make a solid plan, using mind mapping or any other methodology, and make at least the writing part scientific.
Exactly.
Quantifiable and measurable. And truly they say that if you can't measure something, you can't improve it. So when you combine art with science, you've done something unique. I look forward to your book.
Thank you, Jasveer. Thank you so much. Thank
above all, something else that you said, really, the young and aspiring authors need to work on it. You need to have a plan. If you are an indie author, or let's say, suppose you're not getting response from the traditional publishers, then don't lose heart.
Exactly.
Self-publishing is there, and it's there in a big way these days. All you need to do is find a way, set up your budget, as per your genre, and make a plan. That's it. That's all you need to do.
Exactly. And then, you can really, I would say you would have a lot of advancement in terms of taking some shortcuts. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can start from wherever others finished, or ended. So the experiences of other authors are always everywhere on the internet. You can watch YouTube videos, you can listen to some of those interviews. So what I did, the whole 2020, I was listening to different interviews for, those authors who were telling those stories, how they started, maybe sometimes a nonfiction author that she couldn't sell the book. She went for the self-publishing option, and then maybe she managed during, let's say the first or 2 years to sell 1 million books just by minimizing the price, just by selling the ebook, the e-copy for less than $1. And then she could build her name. And then in the second novel or a second fiction book, she could, build on that. So there are a lot of, lesson learned here that we don't have to figure out by ourselves. If we are practical enough to learn from others and build upon their experiences, I think that would make it easier for us as well.
I think truly something I really like the idea is that the author priced her first book at a very low price, and through that she could reach masses. There was quantity, and then in the next book, when she knew that she is already in demand, people already know about her work, the branding was already done. I think she came up with a bit higher price. I think that's so true for every product marketing. So thank you for sharing the basics of marketing with us. I think that works with every product, right? A book is a product. Your name as an author is a product. You need the right product placement for the right marketing. I think, that's so true.
And touching upon this point, if any of the authors who are listening to us right now are pursuing the traditional publishing option, you really need to look at different things. You need to look at, your name, as you said. So you really need to build your name. It's not easy to sell an idea. So how you make your idea, I would call it bankable from my banking career, or commercial, I would say, to sell. So and no publisher will come to you and say, I will give you this advance, I pay you this just because you're writing. He needs to know that whether your idea will sell or not, and you really have to speak the same language as the publisher. You really have to tell him or her what you really can do to sell your book, and not only 10 books or 100 copies or 1,000 copies. You need to speak and think very big.
Yeah. When it comes to traditional publishing, it surely is at a very grand scale. And the young and aspiring authors must understand that when it comes to traditional publishing, you are not spending anything. The publisher is actually taking a risk by taking you on board as a new author. You may sell, you may not sell. That's a story that would be decided later. But then traditional publishers are also taking a big risk by taking over your work, and for that matter, work of any established author as well, because they work on it. They spend money publishing it and publicizing it. They spend money on marketing, book tours, and everything. And so before being angry with the traditional publishers for not accepting your manuscript, try it from their point of view as well. It's a huge challenge for them as well. Yeah,
exactly. That can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
Just to think and put your fees in their shoes, just to think their way. Yeah,
absolutely. Right. So you've done so much research, and you're coming up with your first book shortly. Let me ask you, what is the favorite part, when it comes to the publishing process, and which is the least favorite part when it comes to the publishing process?
So it's if I just focus on the book idea, the book is quite practical. It's a step-by-step practical blueprint to help people who are stuck in their careers or businesses, just to figure out their passions, merge these passions with their values in life, and then their vision. So I have it as a step-by-step, but I have in a few chapters, I have parts of my story which I'm just trying to, build upon. But what I'm doing is I'm extensively interviewing people from everywhere in the world, 50% from the US and Canada, and the other 50% from the rest of the globe. People who were able to successfully to change their careers and, pursue their passions. And by mentioning different stories depending on the chapters, I think would give some inspiring thoughts, some inspiring stories for people to follow, different stories, different approach. And I hope I could have every reader to have or see him or herself in at least one of those stories. So the best part is writing stories. I'm really enjoying interviewing people and from all over the world, and touching upon important cornerstones in their journey. Which I've been through this, so I could relate always when I'm talking and asking them a few of those questions. And then writing those stories in a way that appeal to people and encourage them to follow their passions. The toughest part, it's writing is not easy. You need to sit yourself for a few hours every day and write. And that's actually is not easy, to have this discipline. For somebody like me, I always try to be disciplined if I want to build a new skill, but it's not always easy. For example, I have inspiration, so I have always set up for me if I want to write faster. If I stay by a nice scenery or specifically by the sea, I can write faster. So I've been to different places where I could be close to the sea and write. So for a few weeks, I've been to Zanzibar, which is East Africa, and the Maldives as well, to write faster. And that really helped me to write very, very fast. So every day I could just wake up in the morning, my coffee, my breakfast, and I just keep writing for 6-7 hours. But then to have the same discipline wherever you are is not easy. So I found this really difficult, to discipline myself and every day try to write. It's really not easy. Of
Yeah.
course, if you have other career, in my case, I'm coaching people, I'm building my company, I'm doing few other things as well. So it's not easy to have every day, you're writing time.
Truly, as an indie author, you need to juggle between your primary occupation, your home life, and then
Exactly.
somewhere find the time to write also something. Yeah, I
Exactly.
can understand the struggle.
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about the storytelling process, what comes to you first, the plot or the characters? And tell us if you're working on any other project apart from this upcoming book.
So, uh, it starts with the idea. So, and because, all comes back to the mind mapping process that I mentioned to you. So, I've done that last year, and it was so useful to put everything, down on the paper, and then from there build these maps, and then from these maps connect things together, and then build this practical, I would say, blueprint. So it's project. The book, it's built on on project, so it's phases. So each phase, will make sense in each time. So the timing is so important. And if you consider your career or life as a project, which I think is the case, you should build it on foundations, right? Uh, some of us build their projects, I would say, on weak foundations. So their projects collapse. Some others build their foundations on, I would say, the wrong foundations for them. So if you build your project on wrong foundations, you will keep spending time on fixing the problems coming from those weak foundations. So the best thing is to build it on the right foundation. So this is how I start the book from the, based on that concept, and moving on, across the different phases. You have in each chapter a specific focus. And when I'm talking to people, I'm interviewing different people, I see where's the most strong point or argument or foundation that the person is building his or her career on, and I match it with the chapter. For example, I would say in one of the chapters, one of the myths that people believe in is, in order to succeed in life, you have to specialize in one career. So focus on one major, grow in that business, specialize in it, get promoted, and this is the real success definition. But actually, that's a myth. That's the only way. That's not the only way to succeed in life. There is another way, actually, which is doing different things and building your expertise across different and unseemingly separated domains. And that's actually called, I would call it a polymath. Polymath is somebody who spent several years in different careers or different domains. So based on that, I would find my story. So a person who has done this in the past, so a person who has done 4 or 5 careers, or 3 or 4 careers. So based on my chapter, I go out and find, a story that strengthen that point.
True. I think like any other project, the base has to be strong.
Exactly.
Like any other building, the base has to be strong. If your base is strong, then probably you've taken care of a lot of problems in your project.
Exactly. And nothing is worth than your life and your career, because our careers are always impacting our lives. So people really should think carefully and think through how they want to build their lives and what kind of foundation, right?
True, absolutely. And what is it that you particularly require in your writing space? I know that you love seaside, right? Anything else that you require in your writing space that sort of motivates you?
So anywhere that is not within four walls. So writing within four walls for me is not inspiring at all.
Yeah.
I get to be slow when when I write in such place. So I really need to see a scenery in front of me. So whether it's a green scenery, whether it's a mountain, whether it's water, and when it gets to water, when it gets to a river, it's nice. But the best ever is a sea. So I'm in front of the sea view, having my best coffee, and just I could write for for days without stopping. That's really the best fit for me.
True. All right. And which writers have inspired you?
Oh, there are a lot, of course, but if I could mention two, I would say Malcolm Gladwell is really one of them. I really enjoyed reading different books of Malcolm Gladwell because of uh, this very simplistic way he writes. So I think he has done a test or so, and it showed that almost his writing, it's readable and understood by 5 or 6 years old, kid, which is actually the secret. So a lot of nice and very well written books are not readable by everybody.
Right.
So some of them are based on scientific research. Some of them are so strong in their languages that not each person, everybody could read them. But I think if we come back to Malcolm Gladwell, I think his language is so easy and simple. The other thing that I really admire in him is that the way he connects things together, things, they look unrelated, seemingly unrelated, unconnected, but the way he connects things together is amazing. It really teaches that we shouldn't separate things from each other. At the end of the day, we are in one universe. All the domains, all the sciences are connected in a way or another, and we shouldn't look at things from a wide angle, a wide perspective, so we can connect things together. That's what I really learned from him. I would say another author, Chris Galabo, and Chris Galabo is an American author who wrote, I think, 8 or 9 books, from the $100 startup to Side Hustle to Born for This, and several other books. And the two things I really love about him. The first thing is that he really jumped into the conversation that I used to have at that time. So when I read the first book, the $100 startup, all those ideas, I was already thinking about them, and then I finished actually all his books in 9 months because the way he writes is so easy. Another good example, which gives us all hope, especially the authors who are starting their careers in writing, that's my personal notice here is that the way he wrote his first or second books wasn't exactly the best way to write a book, but the skills that he could build over the years, from the third, fourth, fifth, sixth books, actually it tells you that by practice you can learn any skill. So that was really amazing about him.
I think the summary, the top $100 startup, I kind of sort of relate to that book. That's kind of a handy guide that he published. I only read it in an ebook some time ago. It's a good book. It's got some handy suggestions for anybody who's looking to start up a new venture. That too not with a big capital, not huge capital.
Exactly, and he combines the story into practical approach, into his concepts and values in life, and this is how most of his books are actually bestsellers.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot to learn from self-help books as well. I look forward to your book as well.
Thank you.
Finally, we've talked a lot, and you've had some handy suggestions for the young and aspiring authors. Finally, if you have that one message for for them, what would it be?
I would always encourage people to pursue their passions. If your passion is in writing, specifically in our conversation here, is that keep writing. So you have to keep writing every day, or let's say at least on a regular basis. You know, you have to have schedule almost every day or every 2 days. You have to write. The second thing is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Go out and learn from other authors, either from their books. So a lot of people I learn from. Sometimes I read the books, and I try my best to read 2 books every week. I try my best. If I cannot read, then I can listen to audiobooks. So I try to finish 2 books each week. What I really can learn from others is not only the concept of the book, is how to write a book, how to write a best-selling book. So my humble advice to them is to start, reading other books, from an author perspective. Start learning from them how they really craft the story, how they write it, how they make the plot, how they start the chapter, how they end the chapter, how was the introduction. So, by learning, by reading other author writings, you're really making a lot of advancement in terms of writing your own book. And then just keep writing. And as long as it's a passion for you, just keep pushing through.
Right. Wonderful suggestion for the new authors. And the bottom line should be that you must read to learn and inspire and be inspired, not to copy.
Exactly. And actually, as authors, we have a message. We all have a message. So it's a very noble career, a very noble profession, is that you are sharing a message to the world. So I would say, and I would see that if it's your biggest project in your life, just give it all what you got. Write something that can live longer than any of us could live, because at the end of the day, this is, we all should have life purposes in life. We all should have value to add to the people around us, to the society, to the globe, and one of them, by writing, you are really helping to pushing that through that goal.
Absolutely. Truly inspiring, Mustafa. Thank you so much for taking time
Thank
out.
you,
I
Jasveer.
really enjoyed the conversation. You've shared so many handy tips about following your passion, writing, publishing, and marketing. I'm sure the listeners are going to find this information quite useful, right? It was lovely talking to you, Mustafa.
Thank you, Jasveer. It was really fun and very interesting talking to you. And because both of us are authors, I feel myself talking to a fellow friend of mine about something that I love. So really, thank you so much. And I have all the, I would say, my website is The Passion MBA, and I have a page for the book. So whatever progress I have is on there. And then from there, I hope the book would be published soon.
Right. Look forward to the book, as are, I think, our listeners who found this information to be useful. Right, guys, that was Mustafa Amar for you. His book is coming up shortly. He is a coach. You can connect with him online. I'm going to post the links on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram as well. So feel free to connect with him. Thank you so much for taking time out to listen to us. I am going to be back with another author shortly. Till that time, take care and stay safe. Thank you.